Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the source material you need and transform it into strategic knowledge. Today, we're cutting right to the core of small business resilience. We're going to be focusing on a partnership that, well, is often overlooked, the critical synergy between professional bookkeeping and intelligent insurance planning.
That's so true. We've got a great piece to unpack today. It's called Boosting Financial Security, the Bookkeeping and Insurance Duo. And, central to this whole conversation is Ashley White of White Phoenix Bookkeeping. We're really looking at her as an operator who is just deeply focused on data flow. She's not just ticking boxes for compliance. She's looking at how information actually moves through your entire company.
An operator focused on data flow. I really like that framing. It sets her up as someone who gets how, the day-to-day transaction entry ultimately serves the long-term health of the business.
Exactly. And the article, it highlights this feeling that so many small business owners have. They sense they're unprotected, but they can't quite articulate the gap between their daily revenue and their real risk exposure. That missing link is so often the lack of connection between these two roles. They just exist in their own silos instead of in a real partnership.
So our mission today is to unpack precisely why integrating bookkeeping and insurance provides what the article calls a full circle of support, and what specific, actionable information exchange is required to move a business from being exposed to being truly protected. We really need to understand the mechanics of this teamwork.
Let's jump right into those mechanics.
Okay, let's unpack this core idea. The argument for synergy is that running a successful business needs a team that gets both the numbers and the risk. But here's the friction point, right? To a busy listener, this sounds like it might double the administrative burden or, potentially expose sensitive salary and profit data to yet another outside consultant. So what's the core argument for getting over that initial hurdle of cost and, well, business privacy?
That's a crucial question because small business owners, they guard their time and their data fiercely. The argument isn't really about convenience. It's about minimizing catastrophic loss. Ashley White, as the operator, she clarifies the motivation. Both the bookkeeper and the insurance consultant are looking out for the client's health. They're spotting risks or gaps early to avoid those hugely costly surprises down the road. They need the data not to judge you, but to protect you against an event that could wipe out years of hard work.
So that slight increase in communication, it's an investment that pays off in proportional risk reduction. It protects the business, and critically, it protects the family's financial security, which is so often tied directly to the business.
Absolutely. If you have a clean, transparent view of the present, you can better anticipate and, financially buffer the future.
Let's talk brass tacks then. What is the bookkeeper's specific, concrete role in making insurance planning possible? What data are they handling that the insurer absolutely has to have?
The bookkeeper is, fundamentally, the data preparer. For planning, for a claim, or even for renewal, insurers need very specific, standardized documents. We're talking about profit and loss statements, detailed payroll records, expense reports. Ashley points out that since she's already compiling and organizing this information daily, when the insurance consultant asks for it, it's not a scramble. It's an immediate, accurate transfer. It just makes the whole process faster for the client.
And that speed is vital, especially when you're facing a claim.
Hmm.
But organized books, they go beyond just document retrieval, right? How does having clean financial data practically change the way an underwriter approaches specific types of policies?
This is where that integrated approach really shows its value. Accurate financials directly impact the viability and the cost of specialized insurance products. Let's look at key person insurance, for example.
Okay, for those who might not be familiar, maybe we should define key person insurance quickly.
Good idea. It's insurance that basically covers the business financially. If a vital executive or employee, someone whose contributions are essential for revenue, dies or becomes disabled.
Right.
And insurers won't just take your word for it that a person is valuable. They need proof. Solid books have to show specific revenue metrics, historical growth, gross margin, detailed salary figures. This data substantiates that key person's value, and it justifies the coverage amount you're asking for. Without that numerical proof, the policy amount is just guesswork, and often you end up underinsured.
That shifts the whole narrative. You're not arguing for coverage based on a feeling. You're proving the quantifiable financial impact that this person has on the company.
Precisely. And the same logic applies to long-term wealth protection, specifically something like index universal life policies or IULs.
Can you define IULs briefly? They can be pretty complex products.
Of course. IULs are a type of permanent life insurance. They allow for cash value to grow, tied to a market index like the S&P 500, but with downside protection. People often use them as a retirement supplement, a way to build cash value or protection for chronic illness. And because they're designed to last for decades, underwriters need to be sure that the premiums are sustainable,
Which means?
which means accurate, consistent records proving your income stability are essential. You have to show you can afford it long term. If the bookkeeper can demonstrate a clear, documented history of steady net income, the underwriter has confidence in the plan. But messy books. That might lead the insurer to reject or severely limit the policy, no matter what the owner's actual cash position is.
Wow, that's a deep connection, linking the consistency of daily transactional data to a decades-long financial planning strategy.
It is. And one final, maybe most important example: disability and long-term care coverage. For a small business owner, knowing your exact net income and owner draws determines the precise level of disability insurance needed to replace lost wages. If the financials are murky, the recommendations are just guesswork, and the owner risks being dramatically undercovered right when they need it most. When the books are in order, underwriting moves faster, and the coverage is exactly what you need.
So the synergy moves beyond just convenience. It directly impacts the quality and the effectiveness of the coverage itself. It ensures the money you spend is actually buying the right level of protection.
Absolutely.
Now, let's pivot and look at the cost of inaction. When these two functions, bookkeeping and insurance, they don't connect, what's the actual price tag? Let's imagine a business owner is renewing their policy and their books are, say, 6 months behind. What happens right away?
The biggest issue that Ashley White identifies is the risk of paying the wrong amount for insurance, because the numbers are unclear. When an insurer has to guess your risk profile or your true payroll exposure, they play it safe. They might overestimate the risk, meaning your business is paying too much, tying up critical cash flow.
That's just wasted money that could have been reinvested in growth.
Exactly. But the flip side is far more dangerous. They might underestimate the risk because the numbers you gave them are incomplete, and that leaves the business dangerously underinsured. You pay for peace of mind, but if the data is flawed, you end up with neither peace nor accurate coverage when a claim hits. That's when the real surprise happens.
And that leads us right to the biggest missed opportunity the consultants highlighted: income protection. A lot of small business owners, especially solo operators, make a really catastrophic assumption. They believe that if they get sick or disabled, the business itself will just provide for them.
That's a huge blind spot. It's a failure of holistic planning. The business might have revenue, but without specific disability insurance or a defined plan for how that cash flow will transition to the owner's personal income in a crisis. Well, that assumption is just false. The owner is often the engine, and when the engine stops, the entire income stream is at risk.
So the revenue is coming in, giving the owner this false sense of security, but the actual structure to protect that income if the owner stops working just isn't there.
And this is where the bookkeeper, acting as that operator focused on data flow, becomes a crucial signal detector. If they see that the owner is drawing all of their personal income directly from the business, that is a clear flashing signal that the owner is exposed. It requires an immediate conversation with the insurance consultant to address that risk. Without this integrated approach, owners are left vulnerable to massive income gaps that threaten their personal and business finances at the same time.
So the bookkeeper isn't just reporting history, they're flagging future risk potential. That truly changes the nature of the partnership.
It changes the job entirely, from reactive accounting to proactive risk management.
Let's summarize the logistical payoff here. The consultants outlined 4 specific logistical benefits of clear books in the context of insurance.
Yes, these are the concrete rewards. First, you dramatically increase your likelihood of getting approved for the right coverage amount. No more guessing. Second, you can effectively demonstrate your business's actual value to underwriters, which can sometimes lead to better rates. Third, and this is so important in a crisis, you can process claims without those devastating delays or confusion because all the financial evidence is right there, ready to go.
And the 4th benefit.
The 4th is flexibility. You can easily adjust your coverage as the business grows and changes. You ensure the protection keeps pace with your profits and the scale of the company. Growth introduces new liabilities, and your policies need to scale with that success.
Okay, let's bring this home for the listener with a grounded takeaway and some actionable steps. Ashley White's final advice is so practical. She urges business owners to schedule regular communication between the bookkeeper and the insurance consultant, not just waiting until a policy renewal or some regent situation pops up.
That proactive, systemized communication is the core of this entire approach. It protects what the owner has built, and it ensures both clarity and durable protection are always in place.
For our listener, let's list the specific integrated tips they can apply. Let's start with that idea of the joint review.
Absolutely. First, schedule those annual or even biannual joint reviews. Get both advisors in the same room, virtual or physical. This makes sure your financial records are perfectly aligned with your insurance strategies. It eliminates those communication gaps instantly. Second, use your bookkeeping data to project forward. Don't wait for something to happen. Proactively discuss increasing coverage during periods of rapid growth.
And let's address that perceived cost again, because you mentioned a tax angle earlier. This isn't just about protection, it's about financial optimization. How does using insurance for tax efficiency really work when it's coordinated with clean books?
It's surprisingly simple, really. Think of your premiums and policies as financial instruments, not just expenses. Accurate bookkeeping lets you predict, document, and categorize those costs perfectly, which is essential for end-of-year tax planning. And when you're using specific tax-advantaged products like cash value life insurance, the meticulous documentation of your net income is necessary to make sure you're meeting all the requirements to leverage that growth legally. If your net income is a mess, you lose that leverage.
So clean books allow the insurance products to do the financial heavy lifting they were actually designed for.
Precisely. And finally, you have to integrate risk management, so the cost of premiums, directly into your operational cash flow planning. If the protection isn't financially sustainable, you'll eventually drop it. By planning for premium costs as a predictable, mandatory line item, you make sure those protections fit comfortably within your budget for the long haul.
That is a really comprehensive roadmap. When you see bookkeeping data being used not just for compliance, but as this forward-looking tool for protection and tax strategy, it finally makes sense why these roles need to speak the same language. It's about optimizing the entire financial structure, moving from just surviving an audit to, well, thriving securely.
It is about true optimization. And I want to leave you with the analogy the consultants used to describe this partnership. They talked about combining strawberries, balsamic vinegar, and basil.
That's a very unusual combination: sweet, acidic, and herbaceous.
It is. And alone, each one has its own distinct strengths. But when you combine them, they create something unexpectedly refreshing and powerfully good. A completely new, superior flavor. The same is true for your professional team. Bookkeeping and insurance may seem separate, but when they combine their specialized knowledge, they create a level of business security that is so much greater than the sum of their individual parts.
That's a fantastic image. True security isn't built by a single specialist, but by a coordinated team.
So, as you reflect on your own operations this week, ask yourself, are your financial and risk advisors just working side by side, or are they proactively working together to build that full circle of support? Because that is where genuine, durable financial security truly begins.
A great thought to chew on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.